people don't realize that sometimes, we don't have a 9 to 5. So, I'm on the phone with him at 11:30 in the evening and then again at 6:30 in the morning and, getting all the stuff. But that's what we do for people. And I'm very, very, very happy to say that she got the home. She moved in exactly when we were going to be moving in. And she's never been happier. So I'm glad that I was able to make that happen for her.
Welcome to the Dream Home Podcast, the show where real estate meets real talk. Hosted by John Nagle, a seasoned expert with over $7 billion in real estate financing experience. This podcast features top realtors, builders, and financial pros. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you make smarter moves. Here's your host, John Nagle.
Welcome back to another episode of the Dream Home Podcast, where we explore the people, stories, and strategies that turn home ownership dreams into reality. I'm your host, John Nagle with CMG Home Loans. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Kimberly Knearem, a standout realtor with Worth Clark Realty, who has been featured in the May Realty Producer magazine as the Agent Spotlight featured story. This is an incredible honor that recognizes Kimberly's excellence, impact, and reputation in the Texas real estate community. With over 8 years of experience, a passion for problem solving, and deep expertise across multifamily and residential sales, Kimberly has helped countless families in the Tri-County area to find their dream homes. Today, we'll dive into her journey, superpowers, and her advice for buyers, sellers, and renters alike. Kimberly, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate your taking time to join us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. So let's kick this off with the fun stuff. What would you say are your real estate superpowers? What makes you stand out from the crowd?
Well, first and foremost is getting them to the closing table. But really and truly, it's, anticipating issues before they arise. When you're in it long enough, you kind of know what to look for. And if something does pop up, you have to learn how to pivot and, change your gears, figure out a better way. You kind of have to think out of the box sometimes, and that's what I'm really good at.
Yep. Yeah, that is definitely truly the case, isn't it? Because things don't always happen the way you expect them to each step of the way. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the number one thing people call or text you about when they need help?
Really and truly, it's when they're first starting out and they don't know what they want to do yet. They're thinking about buying or they're thinking about selling. They're kind of, playing with which way they want to do or what they want to do. And so it's mainly just, educating people. Most people don't know. It's not something that you do all the time. So, questions about how to, list the house or how to navigate your home search or what to look for, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then real estate can be a roller coaster, especially for first-time buyers or renters. How do you help clients navigate the ups and downs?
The biggest thing is to focus on the education. It's easy to think that we can do 1, 2, or 3 different things, but until we're truly educated on all the different aspects of it, the biggest one I think would be the lending side. A lot of people don't realize how much the lender plays a role in the entire process. In order for you to be able to purchase, for the buying side, I should say, but in order for you to be able to purchase something, you've got to have that little piece of the puzzle already in place, because that allows us to focus on, or I say, allows the agents, the realtors, for us to work for you. In a sense, it gives us your buying power. It tells us what type of loan you're going to be using. It tells us, all different things. And sometimes, more often than not, people can tend to get approved for a lot more than maybe what they want. So it's important because the lender will also be able to give them a good round area guesstimate of, hey, at this particular price point, this is kind of where you're going to be looking at with your monthly payment, as an estimated number. And then sometimes my clients say, oh, well, that's way more than I want to spend. That's very helpful because then it tells me, okay, well, what are you comfortable with? Let's focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important to get all your ducks in a row and understand what your comfort level is, because you're exactly right. If a lender says you qualify for a certain amount, that doesn't mean that that's what you should spend. You also have to understand, how does that look in my real life budget? Am I comfortable with that? Is that going to allow me to do the other things that I want to do? And, going out to dinner or whatever those other things are, right?
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
can you tell us about a time when you had to overcome a major challenge for a client and how that played out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've no transaction is ever the same. There's always, different ones have different things that go with it. One that stands out was a client that, um, she was a veteran, and she had already started. She had a lender that she wanted to use. That was her decision, and so of course, we go with it and we use whoever the client wants to use. It was a lender that I didn't do a whole lot of work with. And so VA loans can be very tricky sometimes, um, with regards to the level of strict that they can be, which is actually really good though, because it's a good thing for our veterans. But sometimes it can bring up more challenges than benefits. And so on that particular situation, the client, we got very close to the closing table. Appraisal was done. Everything was done. We agreed on repairs. Everything was done. And about 3 days prior to closing, the lender just said, "Oh, well, no, there was something on the back end. That was a
Gosh.
VA. The lender was saying it was a VA issue when it wasn't a VA issue, it was a lender issue. But at the end of the day, um, you know, my client was brokenhearted, thought she was going to lose everything, wasn't going to get the house. She was relocating from, you know, um, another area in Texas that was many hours away. So with her job and transferring, she had to be in the house by a certain time to start her new job. But fortunately, I was able to, you know, um, earn her trust to the point where she trusted me enough to put her in communication with another lender that I did do work with, who was also a veteran himself. And he worked around the clock to help her. I mean, literally within 48 hours, we had our clear to close. He transferred everything over to, from the other lender directly to him. I mean, I don't know how he did it. I don't know, what his superpowers are, but he literally was texting me at 11 o'clock at night and asking me for documents, and we were getting them over. I mean, people don't realize that sometimes, we don't have a 9 to 5. So, I'm on the phone with him at 11:30 in the evening, and then again at 6:30 in the morning, and, getting all the stuff. But that's what we do for people. And I'm very, very, very happy to say that she got the home. She moved in exactly when we were going to be moving in. And she's never been happier. So I'm glad that I was able to make that happen for her.
Well, that buyer was pretty fortunate that she was working with you, because had that been someone else, it might not have been the same ending, right? That
Yeah.
throw your hands up, oh, sorry, and move on to the next one. My goodness. And to do it in 48 hours, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
hands, it's incredible that the lender was able to help you that way and that quickly to get it done for your buyer.
Mhm.
So let's go to the awesome moments. Tell us a story about a buyer or family you helped that really sticks with you.
Um, well, I've got tons of awesome clients. It's kind of hard to pick certain ones. Um, I had a client where they it was kind of interesting because they had been looking for a house with another lender, or not lender, excuse me, with another agent, for about a year. They'd working with this other, realtor for a year, looking at homes, and they were very discouraged in the fact that They couldn't find what they wanted. They felt everything that they were being shown just wasn't what they were asking to see. Um, so they, being discouraged, they just quit looking and they decided to put a pin in it and they renewed their lease where they were at. So 6 months later, they were looking again and they came across my name and my profile. And so based on my reviews alone, they called me. Um, and within 2 months, we were closed on a house. And it was the one thing that I try to do is, we all ask the questions, hey, what are you looking for? What's important to you? This, that, and the other. But I always like to ask my clients, what do you not want? Like, what do
Mhm.
you not want to have in your house? Because that in itself will help cut the list. And when we find out what they don't want, it's very easy to find out what they do. And, it's just been a very, very helpful process. And so, anyways, back to the client, they were just beyond shocked and they were just the sweetest they could be. They just kept telling everybody how wonderful I was and they were referring me to all their friends and that, and that's one of the most heartfelt things is when they trust you and they're so grateful and you're able to be a part of that and make somebody happy. I mean, it's the biggest purchase that they'll ever make. And to be able to, you know, help them do it is very, very heartwarming and rewarding.
Yeah, I'm sure moments like that are why you love what you do. So, what keeps you
Absolutely.
motivated and inspired day after day?
The people I work with, honestly. I am beyond fortunate to have amazing clients that I work with. I mean, they still text me. People that I've sold homes to years ago, I still get text messages from and, happy Mother's Day or, things like that. I mean, the people that I work with are just phenomenal. And I'm just so truly blessed. Um, and then I have such a great uh, resource of vendors that I work with. I have great lenders that are tried and true. I have title companies that you know, are just phenomenal. It's one of those things where when you find something that works well, you just go with it. And it's like those people that you recommend, the people that are your extended family, your working family, they're an extension of you. And so, when you find someone that is just takes things as seriously and, everything is as important as it is to you, then that's huge.
Yeah, that is so important for sure, right? And
Mhm.
you've been in multifamily, single family rentals and sales. What resources or tools do you use that really makes a difference for your clients?
Um, my background in multifamily, over, well, let's just say over 20 years. um, you know, uh, it's given me a good um outlook on, helping people. Starting out with finding an apartment, helping people with their home there, and then moving up to, all the way leaving that to, working with brokers directly on, renting out homes for different lenders to people in different states, things like that. And now to doing what I'm doing here, I just feel like I'm very, very blessed to be very well rounded in not just one aspect of real estate, but multiple. Um, you know, my knowledge in, you know, fair housing and, just different things like that. It's been a true uh help for me, I would say. It allows me to have a little bit more, I think, of a structured outlook. And also, I truly feel like my multifamily background has enabled me to be very and a much a very out of the box thinker is what I would say, because with multifamily, you're constantly dealing with a numerous amount of vendors, and you've got budgets and this and that, and there's so much that goes on with it that you have to be able to, come up with other ideas, find something that works there. The fact that if it doesn't work, it's just not going to work, that's not something that's in the vocabulary when you're in that stuff. And I think I just took that with me here.
Yeah, and it's got to be very rewarding because you've seen that renter, right? That is now a first-time home buyer, and you know exactly where that renter is coming from because you dealt with them for such a long period of time, and you can really give them a lot better big picture look at things of here's what the difference is between renting for 10 years and then owning this home. Look, this is what it's going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years of owning your own home. So that is a great background to have.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because it just made me remember of another client that I had back when I was a property manager. I had left that and I'd been gone out of the multifamily for, at least 8, 9 years by this time. And I had gotten a call. Actually, somebody found a listing I had on Zillow or whatever, and it was this nice lady. And so I didn't recognize the name at first. And when I went to go meet with them, she said, "Oh, my husband's coming." And I was like, "Okay." So he gets out of the car. And it just so happens to be, it was one of my tenants from when I was doing multifamily. And he looked at me and he was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "I didn't know it was you." And so that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool, being able to help an old tenant from way back when get into a house. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, very rewarding for sure.
Hmm.
So, are there any particular certifications, programs, or partnerships you lean on to deliver great service?
Oh, for sure. I use a lot of different platforms. Of course, you have your MLS, and then the North Texas real estate, Netris, and then I do a lot of stuff with like Zillow, homes.com, do a lot of the research, things like
Hmm.
that. I also use it's called Land ID. I
Hmm.
use that one a lot because it helps with the location, property lines, just being resourceful. There's so many different things that I do that I work with. Um, one of the one of the apps that I like to use for paperwork is through Dotloop because it's very much like a DocuSign. It
Hmm.
allows me to keep all of my documents in one spot, and I can go back to stuff that, you know, back when I very first started, and I can still see things about clients. Like I've actually had clients that were doing their taxes, or for whatever reason they needed paperwork um, for like 4 or 5 years ago. And so they've been able to call me and say, "Hey, Kim, do you happen to have?" And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Absolutely." Get it over to them within, same day. So um, that's been a really good tool to have.
Yeah, that's definitely a good resource when you can put your fingers right on something that quickly and that easy compared to, the way it used to be, which was a lot different than that, right? Finding someone's file
Yeah,
5 years
files.
ago. So, for sure. So, walk us through the experience of working with you. What can a client expect from that first call to closing table?
Um, well, I like to consider myself an agent that, will hold your hand through the whole process. From the very first phone call, um, I don't try to be overbearing. I gauge it based on the client, what are kind of are they open to talking about everything right now, or are we just kind of doing little bits of it? But for the most part, it is educating, number one, so that way there's no I don't ever want to have someone ever come to me saying, "Oh, well, I didn't know that I was going to have to do that," or
Hmm.
"I didn't know that I was going to have to pay out of pocket for a home inspection," or "I didn't know that the lender was going to make me pay up front for the home appraisal." you know Things like that on the buying side, as well as with the seller. Hey, less is more. let's get, let's declutter, let's do this, let's do that. Um, I try to be um is very open-minded. My way is not always the highway. I try to take my clients and put them up front and first. Whatever they want is always the first and foremost important thing. Um, and just basically hold their hand through every stage, make sure they understand what's going to happen, and then we get to the closing table, whether it be for a buyer or a seller. And even beyond that, I'm still there to help them answer questions and do things. And like I said, they call me all the time, and I'm always giving them or helping them out. And that's the thing I always make clear. My relationship with them does not end once we close on a house, whether that be a sale or whether that be a purchase. I'm always there as a resource for any of my clients as long as they need me.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. So, for anyone listening who's unsure about jumping into the market right now, what would you say to encourage them?
It's never the right time. It's kind of like, you know, if you're nervous about it and you think you should wait a little bit longer, there's always going to be something that you're going to wait for. It's never, it's very rarely someone says, now is exactly the right time for me to do what I want to do. Um, so, what I would say is educate yourself, number one. Find a very good realtor that you trust, someone who's knowledgeable. Um, and reviews are huge. You want to know that the agent that you're working with is someone who has had good experience with previous clients. And then most important is finding someone who's actually going to listen to you, not just hear what you say. And but once you get those things situated and you've got your advocate on your side, a good advocate, your agent is good right there, then I would say from that point, just jump in it because, you know, once you have completed that task of owning your home and buying it, you can always refinance down the road if you need to. I mean, it's not like, don't let the rate scare you. Um, don't let things scare you. For example, a lot of people don't realize that there's some wonderful programs out there to help people with down payment assistance. You know, People tend to think, I won't say all people, but a lot of people that I've come across tend to think they have to have like $30,000 in a bank to buy a house. And that's not the case. Um, there's so many wonderful things that lenders like yourself can offer, you know, buyers, um, that can alleviate a lot of that pressure and a lot of that finance so that we can help them get into a new home. So I would just say, talk to someone, and find everything out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what we've seen in this market, as you know, is when rates go down and all of a sudden we're back to that multiple offers on every property and people offering more than the asking price and crazy things like that. So now is definitely a great time to buy because you are having some leverage with the sellers where some sellers are willing to help with a seller credit towards closing costs. And we do have the down payment assistance programs, like you mentioned. And we have a product, which we spoke about before called Rate Rebound, where for 5 years, we will refinance for free, no lender charges. We waive the appraisal anytime the rate goes down by 0.5% after the first 6 months. So now is a great time to buy because a few years ago, you didn't have that leverage to get a seller credit. You were competing with those other buyers in multiple offer situations. So it is really a perfect time to jump into the market for sure.
100%.
So, Kimberly, what are trends or challenges you're seeing in today's Tri-County market?
You know, I am seeing it. It's kind of switching a little bit. It's starting to, get a little bit better now. With regards to more transactions. It just kind of got a little bit stagnant there for a little bit at the end of last year. Um, but we are seeing more movement. I would say the biggest thing is clients or people that I speak with, they tend to think that the biggest challenge for them is interest rates. And they're, oh, well, the rate's too high. Oh, for whatever reason. But a lot of people don't remember, or maybe they're not aware, is before, we had the crazy 2% ish, 2.25 or whatever, rates were always between 6 and 7%. That was the normal, and had been that way for a long time. And so I don't think we're ever going to see the rates drop that low anytime soon, ever, like they did when they were in the 2 and the 3%. But, that's why I would say the biggest thing would be people tend to think it's more of the rate instead of insurance. Insurance is the number one thing that is actually more expensive for a home buyer. So it's important also, if you're looking at a certain area, if you're looking at a certain specific location, and let's say city, or, this is where you want to be, you want to be in this particular zip code. So you can call it, I would recommend reaching out to a home insurance agent and, get some information on like just an average, if they can help you with, policy prices. So that way you can help your agent and you can help your lender better navigate the numbers for you.
Yeah, that's such an important component, because that is, as you know, part of our qualification process is how much is the insurance going to be. And that's very good to know that up front versus, finding it out later on in the process, right? To understand that so you can budget for it properly. So what advice do you have for buyers and sellers trying to succeed right now?
Don't give up. Sometimes the process can be a little challenging. It's very common to have hiccups in the road. Trying to find all the documents for your lenders, you look at a ton of different houses, and sometimes you can think that you're never going to find the right one. There can be a lot of reasons why you want to say, I'm just not even going to mess with this anymore. I'll do it again. I'll do it another time. My thing is, just don't give up, because you will find what you are looking for, and you will find the right house. And it sometimes, good things don't happen immediately overnight, and it may take a little bit, but I think patience and the desire to see it to the end is probably going to be the best thing to help you get there.
Absolutely. So Kimberly, it's been a pleasure having you on today. Huge congratulations again on your Real Producer Magazine May Agent Spotlight featured story. That is an amazing accomplishment. For those listening, if you're buying, selling, or renting in the Tri-County area, Kimberly is the expert you want on your side. You can call or text her directly at 817-714-2328, or visit her online at texasrealestateByKimberly.realtor, or any of the social media links in the show notes. And remember, if you need help getting pre-approved or want to explore mortgage options, visit dreamhomepodcast.com or reach out to me at CMG Home Loans. Don't forget to subscribe to the Dream Home Podcast and share this episode with friends and family. We're here to help make that next move with confidence. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Kimberly, thanks again. It's been great having you. It's been a super pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Dream Home Podcast, hosted by John Nagle. Ready to take the next step toward your dream home? Visit www.dreamhomepodcast.com for resources, tips, and expert advice. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and join us next time for more real estate insights and mortgage tips. Until then, happy home hunting.